obviously, we've talked a lot about the top of the table. Right at the other end is a team who we've said for a while are like the new Sunderland, aren't they? Sunderland were and Wigan, to be fair, before them. Wigan were a team that got out on the final day every single year. Then Sunderland did it, and now it seems to be your mates Everton, who
my mates,
who I don't know. We talked about it a little bit last week, but the recruitment has been baffling for Everton for a number of years. I think when they lost Gylfi Sigurdsson, that was the beginning of the end, if you like. And obviously, it's not Everton's fault they lost Gylfi Sigurdsson, but that sort of was when the alarm bell started ringing of players going for whatever reason. And they're in a bit of a situation now where they have nobody left, and they've got some of the, I don't know, rejects, if you like, of other teams. I don't know if Alex Iwobi still plays for them. I think he does, but
yeah.
You've got the likes of Morpay in there as well, and their big problem at the moment is that they can't score goals for whatever reason. They're creating chances, but they can't score goals, and they're rooted to the bottom of the table. They haven't scored a goal yet, and once again, it's early days, but are Everton going to be going down this season?
Well, I said not before the season started, and that's why I wanted to talk about Everton, because although the recruitment wasn't the best, I did think, well, look at what Sean Dyche did at Burnley with limited resources.
Yeah.
And that came into it. But equally, what I should have thought about was Everton is probably and this is no disrespect towards the fans. In fact, it's a great deal of respect towards the fans, in that if Everton aren't doing well, the fans get on the back of them very quickly. And I watched them against Villa last week, and they just gave up. They just didn't seem to be bothered. They were being beaten to every ball, and I thought, this is a Sean Dyche team in the second game of the season. Something's just not right. And as much as your resources can be limited, as you've alluded to, I don't think there's any quality there. I mean, and the only quality that is there really is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he's out injured now. And I wasn't being rude while you were talking. I was just looking at their dealings in the summer. So, talking about rejects, and not necessarily rejects, but players that probably aren't of a Premier League level. They've signed Ashley Young on a free transfer.
38 years old, by the way. Yeah, Ashley Young,
Yeah.
Dreadful signing.
They've bought Shamiti from Sporting Lisbon for $12.5 million, a midfield player, and Dan Juma and Jack Harrison have come in on loan. But looking
from
at the
relegated Leeds,
Yeah, but the only thing I will say, in fairness, Jack Harrison was probably one of the highlights from Leeds last year. So I'll give them that as a minimum. In the outdoor, Moise Keane has gone to Juventus for $30 million, striker. Ellis Sims has gone to Coventry, $7 million, striker. And looking down the list, there aren't any more strikers, but there's other players that have gone, which maybe aren't good enough for the team, but ultimately they've sold two strikers. Not that Ellis Sims was fantastic when he played last year for Everton, but still, it's depth in numbers that they haven't replaced. And looking now, they've got, alright, Jack Harrison, who's a winger that's coming, but in terms of strikers, they've got Calvert-Lewin, who's injured, Damari Gray, who's, I don't think he's a Premier League quality striker, and Neil Maupay, who I don't think is a Premier League quality striker. And that's exactly why they were binned from the previous clubs they were at. Everton are really going to struggle. I probably now may be looking at the evidence and how Wolves are playing. Maybe swap my interpretation between the two of them, because I think Wolves will still struggle because they are struggling to score goals, but nowhere near the amount as Everton. I feel like Wolves, and this isn't turning into a Wolves section, by the way. Wolves, the first couple of games, albeit they got battered against Brighton, they look a little bit more solid at the back. They look more of a team unit. Everton just are just uninspiring. I think anybody could get to Everton and think, right, we can win this. And looking at the game they played against Wolves at the weekend, Everton and Wolves both had chances, but on the balance of play, the result was absolutely right that Wolves won. And albeit Wolves scored from a bit of a fluke, but the result was correct. And again, not to discredit Wolves, but if Everton are going to lose to Wolves at home, then the panic station's set in.
Then who are they going to beat? Yeah, you know.
I mean, they've got a massive game next weekend. It's on TNT. They've got Sheffield United away from home. And I feel like if they lose that one, well, you know what? Even if they draw that one, I feel like even at this stage of the season, it's a must-win for Everton. Because if they go and lose that one, 4 games without a win.
I think it's a must-win for Sean Dyche, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not necessarily Everton. It's a must-win for Sean Dyche. I wasn't convinced by the appointment of Sean Dyche in the first place, I'll be honest. I think he did a terrific job with Burnley for many, many years. But by the end, Burnley were going down with him as well.
Yeah, I accept that, but I think who do Everton bring in?
I don't know where the hope comes from Everton, but it's as you say, it's if you're going to lose to Wolves at home, then who are you going to beat? You know, they've already lost against Fulham. Or was it a draw against? No, it was a loss.
No, they lost against Fulham.
They lost against Fulham. I can't remember who they. It was Villa last week. You're right.
Villa,
And traditionally, and I know Villa had a good season last year, but those are 3 games Everton would have probably fancied getting something from, or at least, probably looking at getting at least 4 points out of those 3 matches.
2 out of the 3 being at home, definitely.
I think that's a big mess up. I think you're right, Sheffield United, that's a big match next weekend. Sheffield United, of course, did okay against Man City today, so it's not necessarily gonna define the season.
It's not, but equally, you've got to beat the promoted sides ultimately. The difficulty for Everton is after the international break, they've got Arsenal at home and then Brentford away from home. I can't see them winning either of those 2. So there could be, if they lose to Sheffield United, 6 games, 0 points. Granted that they've then got a little bit of a respite. They've got Luton at home and Bournemouth at home. If they go and win those 2, they might be saved a bit. But say they draw against Sheffield United, you might be looking at a team 7 points from 8 games. And that's not a great return. And again, I don't think it's the manager at Everton, because there's been plenty of good managers go to Everton. Ever since Ancelotti was probably the last manager to do anything good with Everton, and then they've been on a downward spiral ever since. Rafa Benitez, he didn't do the best job as the Liverpool legend, but he didn't really do the best job. A lot of jokes that, of course, he was really an agent for Liverpool, hoping for them to do badly, but don't quite think that story sticks. Obviously, Lampard's been there. Sean Dyche, I think for me, I don't think that the manager should always jump.
No,
and I think that was the case with Leicester last year. I genuinely think that it's a really tough decision, because if you are looking at relegation, especially with the Brendan Rodgers situation, with 6-7 weeks left in the season, the only change as a board you can make is to sack the manager. So that's what they did. But I really believe if they hadn't have sacked Rodgers, especially with bringing Dean Smith in, that Leicester might have stopped up. And I know that this season it's a lot earlier on, but even if there weren't any restrictions, even if they could bring anybody in, who's gonna go to Everton?
Yeah, there's a few names that possibly stick out for Everton for me, and it's more, I think, being defensively solid, which I think Dyche's teams always are. I think that's not only going to get you so far. Their problem at the moment is scoring goals. I think they possibly need a manager with a little bit more of a gung ho nature about them. And I don't know exactly who that might be. I think some people that might fancy the job would be your likes of Allardyce, maybe. But is that much of an upgrade on Dyche?
No. Allardyce is finished.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't think Allardyce would be the answer. The
He
trouble
finished
is
8th with Everton the last time he was there.
Yeah, he did, but that was the game's changed since then. Ultimately, I think that anybody who's going to be linked with that job is like any of the bottom jobs. It's the same crop of managers. It used to be Alan Kirbishley who was linked with all the jobs, and now it's Frank Lampard. So it's that
Alan
kind of
Pardew, bring him back in.
Alan Pardew. Jesse Marsh, Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Well, those are the new names, but none of them are particularly, Premier League. I don't know, pedigree is what I'm thinking about. I'm just thinking about the Roy Hodgson situation last year with Crystal Palace. He came in and he went a bit more attacking, and suddenly Crystal Palace started scoring goals all of a sudden. And Roy Hodgson is a bit more of an older Premier League era sort of manager, like your Sam Allardyce. That's sort of where I'm going with it. Not your new rubbish like Jesse Marsh and Hasenhüttl and those guys that haven't really had success in the Premier League. At least you can say with certain names that they have had previous, if you like.
I think the Hodgson effect is probably Palace linked, though. I think obviously he's been there before. He knows the club. He knows a lot of the players as well, which helps.
Yeah. If
you look at Hodgson, went to Watford and didn't do anything there, and Watford, as per, chucked him out pretty quickly. I just don't know who the answer would be, and that's the problem. I think that the manager's not the problem here, and even if he was, you're not going to get an upgrade on Sean Dyche. So I think Everton are in for a season of woe, and ultimately to hope that there are 3 sides worse off than them. And that's
I think
the reality of the situation.
There might well be this season. I think Wolves, I think, are still in trouble. To big 3 points, they're still in trouble. Particularly if Fabio Silva gets injured. I think he's their only recognised striker.
I don't think Fabio Silva's going to pull up any trees at any point.
Yeah.
I don't rate him, but I think based on that performance, I think I'd back Wolves over Everton. I still think Luton. I'd be amazed. I know you've predicted them to stop up, but I'd be amazed if Luton stay up.
I'd be amazed if Luton had got a point at the moment.
True.
I think actually it's starting to show the big gulf in quality between the Championship and the Premier League now. I think it's getting bigger every single year. I think, just to talk about it quickly, but you can see Leicester and Southampton in the division below. They're just streets ahead. And okay, Leeds aren't, but I think Leeds had lost a lot of their good players in the Premier League, and that's why they went down ultimately. But yeah, Everton, it's going to be a big ask for them to get back. It's a big week again in recruitment for them. I don't see any recruitment coming. But which striker do you think could come in and do something? Who sat on a bench somewhere and could get them 10 goals this season?
It's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think that Everton, especially with the investment in Bramley-Moore Dock, is they're obviously struggling financially. There's actually, I'm just looking now at links, and ironically there's links for players to leave, never mind coming to the club. So Damari Gray's been linked with Saudi. Just looking at this from the Telegraph, they are.
Well, I seen Salah was linked with Saudi today, so
yeah. Well, we'll see. But Everton, I've just got an article here from the Telegraph today. Everton pin survival hopes on Udinese striker Beto or Beto. Well, let's have a look how many goals he scored in the Serie A, because if he's like a goal machine, then we won't have to worry. Well, he's played 33 goals for Udinese and scored 10. So I wouldn't say he's exactly a a goal machine, but who knows? Let's see. So it looks like they're making moves to sign somebody. I mean, that's a good shout. The one here is Danny Ings. I think that could be a shout.
That's one thing, but he's quite old now, isn't he?
But I don't think he's ever had a real chance. I mean, he went to Villa and never really seemed to get in the team over Watkins. It didn't click there. He's gone to West Ham, which I thought was a good signing, but ultimately Jared Bowen is the main man there in terms of strikers.
And Antonio as well.
Antonio. Wilfred Gnonto's been linked to Everton from Leeds. But just looking at some of the players that are being linked, with the exception of Danny Ings, Che Adams being linked as well. But there's nobody there that you go, ooh, that could be a great signing that takes Everton to the next level. It's, as I say, a little bit like the managers. It's the same old quality that comes in, and ultimately and I don't know the whole detail behind the board decisions, but it's all very well and good having a new stadium, but if you're playing in that new stadium in the Championship, then it's all a bit of a waste of time, isn't it?
That's the tricky thing for Everton, and you feel if they do go down, they're in for a tough few years financially, so
they could go again. You know, if you go once, it is very easy to go down again. You know, it's been done before.
Sunderland, have done it. Wigan have done it. Wolves have done it.
Wolves did it. Yeah.
Bolton, of course. When Portsmouth. So many teams that have been bubbling, financially unstable teams that drop into the Championship. They are the first to go down again, and Everton are in a real situation, and many years of mistakes have contributed to that. I suppose one name management wise that we haven't talked about with Everton is David Moyes, who is doing it. I think he's always done a terrific job at West Ham, actually. It's quite funny because somehow I follow quite a few West Ham fans on Twitter. I don't really know how, but you might remember Cautious Paul. He supports West Ham.
Really?
I think so. Obviously, Bad Jokes. He supports West Ham, but lots of people that I see who support them want Moyes out, and I think that's a real interesting point. And I suppose we'll move on to talk about the rest of the Premier League, but that is an interesting call for people to want David Moyes gone from the club, and it's just and it was the same when Allardyce was there, and Pellegrini even. They want so much, West Ham. They want to play attacking football and they want to play fluid football, but I don't know. I think I'd rather just watch a team that wins. And
they were top of the league last night. What would you want?
Well, yeah, I know exactly. But it's unbelievable, and I actually think West Ham have had one of the best transfer windows of anybody. Actually, very underrated. I think West Ham will be absolutely fine this season. Obviously, once the Europa League kicks in, that might be something that happens. But yeah, if David Moyes does get booted out of West Ham, do you think Everton could take a punt on him? Obviously, the links with Moyes there. Could he be somebody that takes him out?
It'd be a great appointment for Everton, but it'd be a terrible move for Moyes. Take that how you want, but I think it'd be a disaster if Moyes went back there, because it took a lot of rebuilding for his career after the Man United situation, Sunderland, Sociedad, etc. I think that it would be a massive mistake for Moyes to go back there. But for Everton equally, as a club, it'd be a great appointment. But I think from what we've said, it's early days, but it looks bleak. I don't know if anybody can get him out.
Honestly, it's when you can't see where the next point is coming from. That's quite revealing, I think. And as you say, it's a massive, massive game against Sheffield United next week. If they can get something out of that and build a bit of momentum, who knows? But at the moment, yeah, very, very much.
Well, based on past episodes of this podcast, I'm sure they're going to win 4-0 at Bramall Lane next Saturday.
Probably. But, yeah, we'll move on from Everton now and talk